Hi, I'm Chris Dent, and today I'm going to talk to you about how to do a basic head and shoulders portrait. Some people call them headshots or business portraits. It really doesn't matter what the terminology is, but what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you how to take this basic type of portrait. And when you hear the term headshot or head and shoulders, basically what you're going to be doing is getting a photo of your model from here to here. By the way, this is Elizabeth. She'll be our model, so she's going to be the one sitting here the whole time trying to look like she's interested in this. But regardless of that, let's go ahead and get started on what you need to look for when you're doing a portrait like this. The first thing that you need to do is, before any of this happens, before you get to any of your lighting or anything like that, is you need to make sure that you consult your subject on what to wear. You do not want them to wear loud, obnoxious colors. You don't want bold stripes, bold patterns, things like that. What I always tell everybody is that you need to wear solid colors. And typically, I always recommend like earth tones, blues, greens, browns, but red can work as well. And she's wearing a nice solid pink color, so pink works well as well. What you want to try and do is, this is going to be a picture of mainly their face. You want the emphasis to be on their face. If you have your subject wearing a bright, loud, or bold shirt, the emphasis is going to go away from their face, so you've just totally defeated the purpose of why you're doing this portrait for them. So make sure you get together with them and have a little bit of a consultation prior to them coming in, or if they have a couple different things they want to wear, just have them bring their items that they're thinking about wearing to the studio. And then you can have a consultation before you take their picture. Now, moving on to the basics of this portrait, the first thing you need to start off with is you need to have your subject on like either a stool or a chair of some sort. And what you want to do is have it to where, if you're using a stool, you want to have it to where it's a little higher than would probably be comfortable, but at the same time, it's at a height that's not uncomfortable for them. And right now, she's got a little bit of bend in her legs. This particular stool also has a little ring around it, so you can put your feet up on that for comfort. But the basic of this portrait always starts with how they're seated and everything. And once I go over the lights and we get closer to time to take the actual portrait, I will show you how you should pose them and everything like that. But to start off with, I'm going to talk a little bit about the equipment that I use, and we're going to be doing a basic, it's actually 3-light setup. The lights that I'm using are photogenic power 1250s. And what I've got is I've got one light up here, which I can call my hair light, or some people call it an edge light or a garlic light. It's got several different names, but I'm going to call this my hair light. And it's the one up and behind her coming down, and it's mainly for the hair, but it also illuminates the shoulders some as well. Then behind her, I have, with this little special background reflector on it, I've got a background light with this little silver scoop reflector that reflects the light into the background. And then the third light that I have, this is what we would call our main light, or our main light or our key light. And what we want to do with it is, this is the one that's going to illuminate her, that's going to illuminate her face. Now, you can do a 4-light setup and have a fill flash behind you. What I'm going to use for my fill flash today is a silver reflector. You can use white. They come in gold, although gold changes the color of your subject. I'm just going to use the silver reflector for today, and this is going to help to fill in the shadows. And once we get into this a little bit more, I'll show you how big a role this will play in it. First things first is you have to get down the distances between everything. What I typically do is I will have my background set up back here, and then I will measure out, these lights and everything are already measured out, but I'll have 3 feet from my background to my background light. And then I'll have another 3 feet to where I pose the subject. Now, the distance on where the main light comes in, we're at about probably 3 feet right here, but I'm going to probably move this light in a little bit. or move it around, because if you pose them, the way I've got her posed now, she's facing the light. If you turn your subject away from the light, you're going to need to move the light around just a little bit, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But for right now, this is at about 3 to 4 feet right here, but that's going to change a little bit in just a minute. Now, the other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this is, like this particular light here, this edge light, I'm not going to be using that, but if you're going to use an edge light and you're going to bring something in from the side, you need to make sure that when you're posing them and everything, you don't get a harsh light on the side. You have to be really careful with these side lights, because if you are not paying attention, the light is going to cast, you're going to have, if you pose them this way, you're going to have a harsh line. So you need to watch that if you're using one of these lights, but I'm not going to use it for the purpose of this. Now we've got pretty much all the equipment in place, and what I'm going to do now is meter my lights. So you need to make sure you have some way of measuring your light output. I've got a meter here. It's a Minolta light meter. I've had it for many years. And what we're going to try and do is I'm going to tell you what I shoot at. You feel free to, when you look at this, if you shoot differently, if you shoot at a higher ISO, or you won't like to shoot at a low f-stop, whatever your case may be, you can always, modify it. But for the purposes of this video, I am setting my camera at ISO 100, and I'm going to be shooting at a 60th of a second at f11. So what that means is I'm going to want f11 to be my exposure, which on her, I'm going to meter this in just a minute to make sure we have f11 on the shadow side, or on the highlight side of her face. What I'm going to measure now is my background light. And typically, what I like to have my background light at is about a stop below what I'm shooting at. So if I'm shooting at f11, I'm going to want this background light at f8. And as I pop it, we're at 8.0. And for the purposes of making this video a little quicker, I did pre-meter the lights, but I do want to show you how it all works. So again, we'll pop it one time. We've got f8 on the background. Now, with the hair light, typically what you want to do is, it's really going to depend on your subject. If you've got a subject like Elizabeth here that has darker hair, I like to get my hair light to be like, if I'm shooting at 11, I want it between 8.5 to 11. If you've got a lighter haired subject, like a blonde, or it's an older person that has white or really light gray hair, you'll want to do it at about f8. And then if you have somebody that has no hair, like myself, you're not going to really want a hair light on at all, because they have no hair to really emphasize. But for the purposes of this, let me see here, and we're right at 8.5. So we've got 8.5 hitting her here and her shoulders, and then we've got 8 hitting the background. Now, what that brings us to is one of the most important things is making sure that we get our main light rocking and rolling here, and we want it to be at f11 on the highlight side of her face. And see, I'm glad I checked, because I moved this light. It's actually a little hot. So we're going to lower the powerage down just a little bit. And I went down a little too far, so let's go back up. And now we're right at 11.1, 11.2, right in that area, which is perfect. So we've got, with all 3 lights going, f8 on the background, f8.5 on the hair light, and we have f11 on the main light. So now that we've got all these lights in place, we're pretty much ready to take our portrait. But before we do that, I want to show you just the little intricacies of really making this work. Now, when you look at your subject, for me, the most important part of a head and shoulders shot is making sure I have good, clear catch lights in her eye. To make that happen, I like to get my catch lights up and in the corner, in the if you're looking at the camera, it's going to be in their right eye, and left eye, it's going to be on the right side. If you're looking in, it'll actually be to your left. So we're going to be trying to focus on getting this catch light perfectly right up in this top corner of the eye. And what I'm going to do, she's actually in a very good position. I'm just going to move this slightly because what I want to do is I want to feather the light across the subject. You don't want to put it straight on them because it kind of creates a flattening effect. If you put it straight on like this, you're getting harsher shadows on the shadow side, and you're also just getting a more direct light. But when you're using a softbox like I am, you can feather the light across. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure and feather the light across, because what that does is that takes the light, and instead of getting it from the hot spot in the middle, it's feathering from the edges across. And it gives you a really nice even light across. And it also makes a big difference in your shadow detail on the shadow side of the face. Now, I've got this pretty much where I want it. And just to be sure that I didn't move it too much, I'm going to meter one more time. And we're still at 11.2, which is good. So, the last piece of this puzzle is bringing in the reflector to take this portrait. And what I want to do when I bring this in, this is what you would call a WYSIWYG object, which is what you see is what you get. So if I have this up in here and I bring it back, see, you've got a lot of shadow in there. But if I bring it in, as I bring it in, you can see the levels of shadow going down. And it really depends on what you want to do as far as personal preference. I typically like to have it not to where it's really flat. I like to bring it back just a little bit so I have some shadow detail in there. Because what that shadow detail does is it gives you some form to the face. It gives you a little bit of depth. It makes it more three-dimensional. If you get it in too close, you get the flattening effect. So I'm going to move this around. There's totally dark, there's totally light. And I want something right in the middle, right about there. And now we're ready. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to pose, and then I'm going to take some shots. So what you mainly want to do when you're talking to your subject, you want to make them, their pose, make them look as flattering as possible. If they have hunched shoulders, that's not going to work. If they're sitting up too tall, that's not going to work either. What you want to try and do is get a nice relaxed posture. And what I typically do, we'll start them out. Turn your legs just a little bit this way for me. You want to get them kind of at a 45-degree angle. If you're over here with the camera, you want them kind of at a 45-degree angle away from you. If you have them square onto you like this, you know, it's like the mug shot. We don't want that. This is a really nice portrait. So we're going to turn them 45 degrees away from the camera. And what you want to do is you want to make sure and have their hands relaxed. I'll typically do like I've got Elizabeth here and have her hands just relax in her lap. Now, what you can do from here is just subtle refinement. If you have them, lean forward just a little bit for me. This kind of creates a little bit more of a relaxed feeling. But you're also got to keep in mind too that you're keeping the back straight. If you tell them to lean forward and they do this, that's not going to work. You need to have them keep their back nice and straight, and then just lean forward a little bit. And now she's in a bit more of a relaxed pose. Now, the other thing that people will often ask about is, well, which direction do you photograph them from and everything like that? It's really, to make it simple for me, I have what I like, but when I'm servicing a client, it's all about what they like. So what I will typically do is I'll do some poses from this side, and then if you will, swing your feet over this way, please. Just like that. And then I will take some from the opposite side. Now, you have to be careful when you flip them away from the light. You need to make sure your catch lights are still in the place that you want them to be. And typically what I'll end up doing is just coming in and with some subtle refinement, just move it in a little bit. And now you're good from that side. So let's go ahead and take some pictures. This little piece of paper here is an 18% gray card. You can buy them online for anywhere from about $8 up to $20. This is probably going to be the best investment you make as far as color management, because if you're like me and you shoot on a custom white balance setting, this helps to knock your color dead. And I always start off my sessions taking one of these. And what you do is you place it right up in front of where their face would be. Make sure you hold it low so that you're not casting a shadow on it. And then you take a picture of it. And then when you go into your camera, you can set it to custom white balance. And that few second process that I just did will save you minutes, hours of trying to edit it if you get your color balance off. I have a lot of people come to me and say, well, I just put it on auto white balance, and then I'm going to let the, I'll fix it in Photoshop. A lot of this photography stuff that people spend lots and lots of time on is stuff that you can take care of in the camera or even before you take a picture. That one step just saved you a lot of time if you do it. And it's going to get you nice, even color. And then you're not going to have a color cast, because if you do a custom white balance, it's going to basically neutralize any color that's not supposed to be influencing it. So if you're under fluorescent lighting, or you're in a situation where you've got mixed lighting, doing that custom white balance will save you a lot of time. All right, let's get going. All right, sit up real nice and tall and lean forward just a little. Bring your right hand back a little bit. Perfect, right there. And a little tilt with your head. Turn this way, right there's perfect. Very nice. Give me a little bit of happiness. You're having fun. Here we go. Good. A little happier than that. We're having a really good time here. That's perfect. Just like that. Good. Very nice. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to swing you back to where we started. So just swing your feet right over here towards the light. That's perfect right there. And now I'm going to bring my reflector back in where I want it. Right about there. And lean forward just a little bit for me. Just like that. Here we go. Big smiles. Perfect. Good. A little tilt right there. Beautiful. Just like that. Perfect. Good. Oh, we got partial blink on that one. Let's take that one again. Here we go. Nice smile. Bring your right hand down just a little bit. Right there's perfect. Big smile. Looking great. Perfect. All right. And now, I typically take anywhere from 6 to 8 poses. Once I get the lighting down and the posing down, I don't feel the need to inundate my subject with a ton of images to choose from. I usually find that 6 to 8 is perfect. And a lot of times you'll find that your subject prefers either the first one you took or the last one you took. So, now that we've done this, this brings to a conclusion this part of the video, but I am going to have some images for you to look at. You're going to have a finished image of what Elizabeth's portrait, how it came out, but I've also got images for you that I took earlier that show how each light works together. You're going to have a shot of just the hair light going, a shot of just the background light going, a shot of just the main light, and then you're going to have a shot that shows all three of them working together in addition to the reflector. So that concludes this right now, and I thank you for your time. Have a great day and keep photographing.